Hello?
Yo, the legend. What's going on, Andy?
What's going on, guys?
How are you?
I'm doing good. I hope that this continues to work. I'm on my iPad in a hotel room, and I thought that I had charged it before I left, and it's at 46%. So really, who knows how this is going to go? It
All
could
right, just
die.
give us the countdown so like we could be prepared. Like when you hit 2%, we'll just run through the last five questions.
Great. Yeah. No, fantastic. Let me see if I can turn the volume up on this so I can hear you guys more. There we go. I feel like, it's sort of joking because I'm at the When We Were Young festival, but the start of this, I feel about as like old man trying to use technology as possible. Like I'm like touching things and immediately I have to turn the volume up and I turn the video off. So yeah, maybe, I mean, who knows? It's maybe emblematic of the whole week.
Yeah, no, this is why you were booked at When We Were Young Fest. It's like that exact reason.
Yeah, because I'm old and I have to remember
Yes,
when I was young.
that's correct. Yes.
Yeah.
This is gonna sound fucking stupid, but for some reason, like I thought you'd log on and your background be like, all right, he's gonna be calling in from like a cathedral or some shit.
Well, they were all booked. It's
Yeah.
Vegas, so there's weddings constantly. So I was unable to get into any cathedrals. But what you do have is this fine hotel art. This is what appears to be like a bloody flower.
Yeah,
So
what is that?
It's gorgeous.
it's a little on brand. You know, unnecessary red in there. That's sort of a brand name for me. Unnecessary red thrown in there. No fancy background. I'm in a hotel room that I just got into a few minutes ago, and it's nice. I like it. I basically have been intermittently living in Las Vegas for like 2 weeks now. So
Yeah, that's how the program works, right? It's like it's I guess it's not summer camp because that's over, but it's the new winter version of Warp Tour.
yeah, except I mean, and this is not meant to be a slight at Kevin or anybody on Warped, but um,
But it's so much better.
they
Because
canceled
Warp
they
was so
canceled the
shit.
show. Yeah, they canceled the show, and because of stuff that was happening. Look, I mean, we were talking about it, and we were saying like, obviously, we have no say or control in what's going on. All of us found out the morning of. I was literally texting with our friend Dave Immerman, who's Avril's guitar player, and he didn't know yet, and I knew, and then other people were finding out. Like people that were playing the day, like it sort of was this domino of finding out. And I was saying how bizarre it was, just the feeling of how we were feeling like it was all a Warp Tour, and a lot of our old Warp Tour friends were talking, and hey, we're going to see each other there. And then the idea of waking up in a show getting canceled because of weather seemed completely insane. Like we played in, I think it was 2017 where we played in Phoenix, and it was officially too hot in Phoenix for planes to land on the tarmac. They grounded all the planes.
I remember this happening. No, seriously. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And I remember thinking like, but we're gonna play a festival to kids in a parking lot today. Like it didn't compute. So, and look,
No, that
I'm the
checks out
biggest
because tour buses are built like so much better than airplanes nowadays.
I'm the biggest Warp Tour lover. Like it was everything to me. Like as a kid, the biggest dream I had, I really, and I mean this genuinely, I never once had a dream of being like rich and famous in the traditional sense. Like that was never really, it was just to be on the other side of the fence at Warp Tour. Like that was really, I would see Davey Havoc walk by with his parasol, or like, somebody riding by on a bicycle, and I'd be like, if I could just do that, like that would be the dream. So for me, every time we did it, it just felt like the peak of the mountain. And now to get to do something like this where it's like Warp Tour, but it's like bougie Warp Tour, it's very strange. It's fun though. I mean, I genuinely, I had so much fun the other day. Like I'm really looking forward to tomorrow.
Like, do you feel like, you come around the corner and Gerard Way's like finishing a burrito, and then like you bump into Avril Lavigne's guitarist who happens to be your fucking friend? Like, is it same vibes?
Uh, it's not in the kind of communal sense. Do you know what I mean? Because it feels like a festival, and festivals inherently you're just separated from everybody, and they've got little sections of trailers, and I ran into friends and seeing people. I mean, um, you know, uh, you're walking into I would say the press tent maybe felt a little bit like Warped Tour because it would be kind of transient people in and out or whatever. and people from bands that I toured with, like Adam from Drugs was in there, or I'd see Remington from Palais Royale or whatever, like the people that I know ostensibly. But the one thing that was different from Warped Tour was I never did Warped Tour with any of my like hero bands. None of the years that we did it, I never had like, so when we were doing press, Jimmy Eat World was across from us, and I was just staring at, I guess I was just staring at Jim for like a long time. And I don't know him, and we've never worked with him. I have no cachet. Like there's no in there other than like I'm the vampire guy in leather pants who's just standing across from, you know what I mean? Like I don't have like a move.
Right.
So,
and he's Jimmy from Jimmy Eats World. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm just looking at him, and then I realized that I was just doing this face.
Right, a face that
like,
you're probably familiar with from like the opposite side of the spectrum.
Sure, but for a long time. And I thought, well, I guess I'll just keep doing this face. So I just kept it, and then we locked eyes, and then I just kept. And like they were talking to like MTV or something, prestigious or whatever, and something that wouldn't
right,
cover.
And you're doing an interview with the State of the Scene. Yeah, we get it, Andy. Yeah.
I'm not talking about you guys. I'm saying, let's be real here. I think that stuff like what you guys do is probably a better pulse of what our actual little world is than nothing against those outlets, but they're paying attention because this is a thing now, and they have a presence there because this is a thing to celebrate this thing that all of us have been a part of and actually lived in for so long. You know what I mean?
Right,
so
right.
I will say I'm not someone who vilifies that. Like it was really cool to see mainstream outlets coming and covering something that is ostensibly like an extension of like a Warped Tour or whatever else. But I think it's just cool to be involved, man. And the fact that we get to do the Trinity kind of in this, like we've just been having so much fun. And anyway, I've been talking since we started. How are you guys?
Yeah. Yo, hey, before we move forward. So the Mourning EP out now on Sumerian Records. I'm gonna read this one because I don't want to fuck it up. The works of Edgar Allan Poe, a fully scored dramatic narration by Andy Biersack of Edgar Allan Poe classic stories and poems, out November 15th. Trinity of Terror 3 starts on Halloween, and you guys just announced you're going to the UK at the beginning of next year. The funniest thing about being asked to interview you was getting a message that was like, yeah, Andy wants to come on to the show, right? You can talk to him about Trinity. You can talk to him about When We Were Young Fest. You can talk to him about Edgar Allan Poe. And I was like, is that what? Is that just like his favorite subject or something?
What if I didn't have anything Poe related and I just wanted to go around talking about him?
That's exactly how it was presented to us.
I think that's an aspirational thing for me, is I'd love to have a press tour based on something that has nothing to do with me, that I'm just an enthusiast of. Actually, I kind of did that during so the Bengals were in the Super Bowl, and I'm from Cincinnati, and I'm a huge Bengals fan. And there's no one really to reach to for these press outlets for Cincinnati Bengals fans. There's not a whole lot of us in the public eye. So I kind of did like a 2-week press tour of talking about a football team that I don't play for or have anything to do with. Like
no
it was
affiliation,
my thing.
Yeah.
I'm getting like Spin magazine's like, can we get a quote about the Super Bowl? Like, well, I'll be watching it, so I don't have any. I have nothing to do with the outcome. No, I wanted to come on the show. I love what you guys do. And I actually, here's the thing. I really appreciate the positive stuff you guys have said about the EP. And I'm always interested in, I suppose I'm always interested in the voices within what we do. Like I've been a part of this scene, so to speak, since I was 16 years old is when the band started. And I've been touring since I was a teenager. And this part of music is so important to me. And again, as somebody who I did not have dreams of, like, despite the fact that a lot of people understand that like Elements of Black Veil was certainly glam oriented and that kind of like cock rock kind of stuff. To me, I took that from like my personal interest in that stuff stemmed more from the theatricality of it and less the idea of like, I'm going to be a megastar. Cause I'm like an introvert who's not that like, you know what I mean? Like I'm not, there's a lot of guys who are that way, and there's a lot of people who are like really just exude like I'm the shit sort of thing, and it really for me is not. I'm not that type of person. So I've always been heavily interested in kind of the history scene, and whether it's punk rock or punk rocker or pop punk or whatever else. Even though my band necessarily doesn't make that type of music, we've kind of always in a weird way fit into this world just by virtue of when we came around. So we're kind of the outsiders at all times. Like we're always, we don't get mentioned a lot, but when we do, people, oh yeah, remember that band? They're part of what we do, kind of ostensibly, kind of
It's
what we do.
fucking wild that you think of yourself that way when you're quite literally one of the faces of the scene.
I don't see. I guess I just don't. The thing about Black Veil and like me in general is, we don't have a lot of. I don't know, how would you say it. First of all, a lot of people think that we sound like a band that we don't sound like, and there's nothing you can really do about that. But there's a fair number of people, like when we first started, just because of the image, that would be like, oh, bands like Black Veil and Blood on the Dance Floor or something, and you'd be like, well, I'm really not sure what the through line is musically there.
Like
but
the worst
what can you do
possible
about it?
one
And
to present.
you would drive yourself crazy trying to correct everybody, and it's not. And when I say that, I don't mean to say that if you only listen to us, boy, are we magical. Like, that's not what I'm saying. It's just that a lot of the times people don't really know what the fuck we do. And one of the cool things about Trinity has been, obviously our audience is there, but when we in front of people who don't actually know what our band sounds like and have made an assumption based on someone making fun of someone for wearing a Black Veil shirt, then they go like, oh, they're just like a hard rock band. Like we don't make like the most egregiously offensive, terrible music that you've ever heard. At worst, it's palatable. Do you know what I mean? Like that's like, and
it's crazy that you've
like
made it this far. You're one of the headliners of the Trinity of Terror tour, and you still feel like an outsider. Like that, you have so many fans come explicitly to see your band and still think that people just don't like understand Black Veil Brides. Like, you don't think that you've kind of moved past it at this point? We had a lot of fan questions that were like, hey, how do they feel about being as big as they are now and like their trajectory and stuff like that? And I feel like I'm not getting any of that from you.
I don't know. I guess to some degree I'll always feel that way a little bit because when we
worst
first
case of
started,
imposter syndrome I've ever fucking seen.
Well, that's not true though, because I'm not saying that we don't have a rabid audience. Obviously we do, because they're the reason that we succeeded. But you also have to understand that I know of, and this is not counting anybody else's money or being mad at somebody else, but I know of a lot of bands who, from the minute that they started, everybody went like, yes, welcome. Everything that you'd like to do, we're behind. Every year we did Warped Tour, there was always like 2 or 3 like hype bands, right? Where everybody in production was like, that band's playing. Everybody there was in the merch. Like, it was a done deal from the beginning. And from the time we started, it was really the opposite. It was sort of like, no. But our audience stayed so true to giving us this opportunity and really knocking down the door for us and consistently doing that I only really feel beholden to the people who have like ridden with us for so long. And I almost have a chip on my shoulder when it comes to the world at large, because I grew up that way. I was a chubby kid who was made fun of all the time, and girls didn't talk to me, and guys made fun of me, and I just didn't have.
Bengals fan.
Yeah, and so as I got older, I grew into whatever the hell I am now. But the part of me that remained just angry at people and having a chip on my shoulder about shit, like, it's hard to get rid of that. And I've gotten much better at it over the years. I remember it was like 2011, we did our first UK headline tour, and I was just like angry the whole shit, like waiting for somebody to like flip me off.
Right.
Yeah. And my tour manager was laughing at me on the stage, and I go over and I'm like, what? And he's like, why are you like looking for a fight? Like, everybody here bought the ticket to be here to see you. Like, they love you. They're not angry at you for existing. And I've tried to keep that in mind. And I know, like, I'm a little bit of a meme in a lot of ways, because like the whole, the Golden God speech and me telling people I'm gonna hit people with an award if I, all that shit. Like, there's so many examples over the years of me, in my mind, trying to defend the band and our fan base. And
Right.
It's also ostensibly funny and sort of memeable, but it's just the way I am, man. Like, But I also, I don't know. I really
Does it drive?
do.
It has to drive you in some sense, right? Like it has to be a motivator in some way. Would you feel like if you're always sort of working to try to gain people's respect, like it has to keep you on the tip of your toes permanently, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if it's to try to gain people's respect because like I don't think Black Veil needs to have like credibility. You know what I mean?
But
Like
it's
that's not
nice,
really
right? It's nice when somebody comes to the Trinity of Terror and goes, I thought this band was one thing. It turns out there's something completely different, and I'm actually kind of into it, right?
that is nice. And look, and it's nice. I would be lying if I didn't say that it's nice that you guys have said nice stuff about our recent material. I know that that wasn't always the case about our material or my material in person.
You've heard older episodes. This is fascinating.
You guys weren't a fan of the Ghost of Ohio record and questioned my relevancy at that point, whether I was going to continue to have a career for very long. So I'm happy to know that I was able to, at the very least, transcend that.
It's humbling to get that stuff, resurface those things.
Well, no, but here's the thing: I don't begrudge it at all because what your guys' job is to report on what you hear and how you feel about stuff, and that's what music is. It's subjective. I've never once gotten pissed off about the idea of somebody actually listening to music and then saying that it's not for them or projecting that something isn't going to work because it's not their position or whatever else. Like that to me is like the most basic level of music listening or criticism or whatever else. The thing that's always been upsetting to me, and I think anybody else, is I'm not even going to listen to this because this is so dumb and look at the way it looks or whatever else. You know what I mean? Like, and the idea that it was said for years, oh, if they spent as much time on their records as they did their makeup, maybe they'd be good. And it's like, well, that's objectively stupid. Like it takes 5 minutes to put eyeliner on. We spent a year and a half making this record. If you don't like it, that's fine. But I promise you, we tried really hard and it still turned out to suck for you. But I promise we tried really hard on it. So yeah,
for what it's worth, and just real quick, not to make this at all about us, I feel like generally our experience has been kind of similar over and over and over again, which is why we've learned to maybe deliver our thoughts in a slightly kinder fashion, is that when we stick with artists, a lot of the times they end up being ones we really love. So it's like, go back 5 years to me saying how abysmal Ice Nine Kills was my favorite band. Like go back 4 years to me saying I can never listen to another like Palo Royale song. New album's fantastic. So it's definitely been like a learning experience in that generally when we stick with artists, we find that as our tastes develop, like we don't necessarily always feel the same way, right?
Of course, but check this out. Go back 10 years and just listen to some of the completely insane asinine things I've said in interviews. Like that's just the way that it goes. You know what I mean? Like
we want to make some new memories on this show. So like hold nothing back.
You guys, we are close in age, I would assume, not too far off. I'm probably a little older than you guys, but like part of the problem is when you first start, and you're young, like you guys were when you started the show, you're learning how to be a person in a public setting. So you're developing all of the skills that you need to, in terms of like what your personality will be when it comes to interviews, what your personality will be when it comes to how you perceive music, how you present that to a public audience. So to begrudge anybody who is any form of the public eye or with an audience is sort of a fool's errand because they're really developing those skills on the fly. So I wouldn't, if I were you, I wouldn't second guess any previous criticism because that's just the nature of doing this. And you guys have put yourselves out there and do a show that so many people love and really respect. And I'll tell you the other thing about your guys' show.
I'm not gonna lie, this is going in my head right now. Keep going.
Well, I just, look, you're known within our scene and in a positive light. And I'm gonna say this, I want to give the shout out. At some point, I had sort of just I would listen to you guys occasionally because I like to know about what's going on around us in terms of the music around us. I'm a fan of this, but I had kind of had the perspective that you guys just hated what we did, and so I wasn't like angry about it or whatever, but I was just like, yeah, they're not really into what we do. And Eric Ron said, no, I think that they actually really like you, but they just haven't really listened to anything that's like new. Like, wait till they hear this record. That he said that while we were making the Phantom Tomorrow, and then inevitably, without you guys being aware of that, you love not only the Phantom Tomorrow, but that Eric Ron produced it. So
true.
All accurate, all incredibly accurate.
You're actually touching on a ton of questions that we had written down. That Eric Ron one, especially. I mean, Sam, I know you wrote that one down.
I did have a few questions about Eric Wrong. Listen, we had a bunch of questions, but I don't hate the flow of the conversation right now.
Flow.
You're incredibly grounded, by the way. It is every time you and Marcus get one of these interviews, it's like, hey, Kellen Quinn or Andy Black, they want to sit down, they want to talk to you. It's like the most stressful fucking thing in the world, right? Because it's like, all right, I've been following these dudes for like 15 years at this point, right? I've been listening to their music for an eternity. Like they are essentially, in my universe, as big a celebrity as you can get.
Yep.
So it's like when you have to go sit down and like ask them questions, it is so hard to work up to it. And then like every time we do it, we come in here and it's just like you, just like Helen, you guys are just like, it's really nice to meet people that you think fame might have gone to their head and then find that they are not at all the person you expect them to be.
Truly.
Well, but this is just my interview personality. As soon as I turn this off, I'm a horrible person. This is just how I act.
That was my next question. Yeah. What did you do the Saturday you didn't have to play when we were Young Fest? How debaucherous did we get? Leave no details there.
I went to Sprouts and I got tofu, and I rented. No, it's a grocery store, and I rented the children's movie DC Super Pets in my hotel room.
Ooh.
And I watched that, and I got to bed at about 8:30. That was my day.
Brutal.
The day that
Absolutely
I was
brutal.
off. Yeah. No, I mean, look, I don't drink, I don't party. I'm a vegan. I'm about the farthest thing.
Like $20 in a machine on your way back and forth to Sprouts?
I don't gamble. I don't do anything. I'm not particularly. Do you know what I do? I buy and collect action figures and I put them in my hotel rooms on the road. I'm like,
what do we got? What are you hiding back
there? See if I can reach this kid. This is I'm very excited to find this one. This is Speeding Bullets. This is Superman dressed as Batman, and it's a gold label exclusive. So it's hard to find. It was very hard to find it. That's what I do, guys. I'm a childhood nerd who's now an adult with enough disposable income to have all of the nerd things that I want.
It's the dream.
I just buy toys and millions of leather jackets, and that's it. No, I'm really, look, I appreciate you saying that. And by the way, I didn't mean to insinuate that you guys were the same age as me. I meant the age range. I know that I'm the old man. It's fine. But I meant like
you are still kind to me, Andy, but keep going.
So it is funny. I did a signing today at Hot Topic in Las Vegas, and people, it's so funny to me because we've been around so long. Like people come up and they're like, they seem like they're older than me, and they're like, I've been listening to you since I was 9 years old, and now I'm 58 or whatever. And it's like, it blows my mind how long we've been around and how long people continue to let us make records and do stuff. Like it's
but you have the complexion of a 20-year-old, so like it can't be that fucking surprising, right?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I do have like, I have like an old baby face. Like I'm getting increasingly older baby face.
I didn't want to touch on like a sore spot.
No, it's not a sore spot. I have a baby face. I'm a young looking person, but I am naturally aging like anyone does. So, but it's staying in the baby shape and look. So I'm just gradually becoming like an elderly baby. Like I imagine
it's not the worst thing.
I imagine it. I'm 31. I imagine at 41, I'll have a visible old baby face. It's just going to take.
It's going to fuck you up when I tell you I'm older than you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're so sweet calling me a little child who.
Oh no,
who has a podcast. No.
I'm not trying to insinuate. I apologize. I didn't mean to be ageist.
You're 31 and you've been telling us how old you are. This whole fucking podcast is incredible.
Look, dude, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm like 100 in rock years. Like
fair.
I only have one rib on this side. I had 2 fractured knees. I have 3 fake teeth. Like I've been jumping off of stages and being on this life for a long time. So I feel very old all the time.
You can have one rib? That's a thing you can just do?
I broke so I jumped off of in 2011. We were doing a record release show in Hollywood at Hollywood and Highland, and you can find really graphic footage of this because there's an every angle cut together on YouTube where people took every phone angle from the crowd of this. So this is, I don't drink anymore. I used to drink heavily because I have really bad anxiety and OCD. And I thought, hey, I can make that all go away by being drunk all the time. And so I tried that, didn't work out. So one of the things that I did was I would drink all the time, and I drank quite a bit for this. And I thought, so I'm 20 years old. I'm thinking like, we got this big fucking, this is our first major label record, big record release show. Like, I got to do something crazy. So we were playing Hollywood and Highland, and it's on Hollywood Boulevard. They like blocked traffic. It was a big deal. This is before Universal realized that you couldn't really market and sell like Kiss in 2011 to kids. Like, it wasn't really going to work on the scale that they thought it was going to. So at the time, they're still like really behind us. They're like, oh, you know, Knives and Pens has all these views. Like, we're going to be able to make this go mainstream. And then we made a record that has like, every song has a 3.5 minute intro, and like there's 6 guitar solos in it. And then we gave them one at the end, just a sidebar, Set the World on Fire. We were done with the record, and they're like, there's no songs on here that we could put on radio. Like, these are all,
God.
There's not anything. And so they're like, you guys are like a glam metal band. And I was like, there is one person in this band who thinks we're a glam metal band. Like, we're making a record that sounds like what we just look this way, but like, we're not. So then we went back in, and they're like, can't you write a song that sounds like a Rat song? We're like, bro, like what? Like, we don't, that's not in our wheelhouse. So we wrote Fallen Angels a little as a fuck you to the label. And then it became a song that to this day people love. So sidebar on that. So anyway, we're doing this.
All right, keep going.
Which I love Fallen Angels for what it is now. I'm not a fan of the music video. It's a little much.
It leans into itself, sure.
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with the creative on that. And that's
It's our secret. It's our little secret.
The one Black Veil video in our entire career that I did not really have like the creative direction behind, or you know, and that was, again, Universal was like, 19-year-old kid, he doesn't fucking know anything. Let's hire some big director, spend way too much fucking money. And, you know, they had us on like giant sets and their green screen. And I remember there was one scene where I'm jumping out of the dirt in the ground like a Power Ranger. And I was like, hey man, like this probably isn't gonna work. Like,
it's not gonna translate, you know.
And the guy's like, oh, it wasn't the director, it was like a producer on it or something. Because they were like, by the way, I've been doing this a long time. I've never once another time had a music video where they were like executive producers and all that. It was like a movie set, like way too much money.
It's gotta be kind of exciting though, right? Like a little bit.
It was, except for the fact that I'm a little bit of a control freak creatively, and I couldn't fucking do anything, and nobody would listen to me. And they're like, no, you're gonna jump out of the sky and fall into the ground. Like, again, as it turns out, like I can watch it now as a piece of our history and enjoy it.
Right.
But it's not one that I'm particularly fond of because it doesn't really have anything to do with what the band is about or the song, really, frankly, because the song lyrically is about the disenfranchisement and the idea of being this like Catholic kid who dresses like Davey Havok and everybody hates, you know, and like that was me. So that's what the story is. And the story is not about, boy, isn't it great that we're superheroes from space? Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, that wasn't really. So
I need to go rewatch this video.
I really need to see this video. I feel like
the cool thing about it is
properly
we got to have a lot of fans in the video, which was really cool, and that was important to, like, you know, in LA in those days, we would play clubs and people would just sit outside all night just to watch us play in these clubs. And, you know, when we couldn't get shows in the early days, we were playing Tony Alva's skate shop in the back, in the parking lot in the back was the first show that we were able to play in LA. Like Richard Villa at Alva was like hooked us up big time. So we had this like groundswell of like this underground audience in LA. And finally that video allowed us like to, you know, really showcase fans. So that's the cool part of it. The not cool part of it's the rest. And the other thing is, on that video, when it was done, we watched it and I was like, this is not gonna resonate with it. Like the song might, but it's not gonna resonate in the way that we hope it. So we literally went back, and with Pat Fogarty, who made Knives and Pens, I was like, yo, we got to make a video right away. Like, we all have no budget. Let's just make. So with the song Legacy, we went to a junkyard and literally paid the fee to go into a junkyard and light cars on fire and smash them with bats. And we're like, we just have to go the other way and just make something that, and we made that video, and immediately way more popular with our core fan base, and a song that it still is one of our more popular songs.
It's
So
insane
anyway,
that you say that you had to make an emergency video to make up for the $5 million video that you had just recorded. But what's funny about that is we had Austin Knight from Waterparks on a little while back, and he told us the same thing. He's like, most expensive video, least amount of views. The one that we did with like my Apple camera that I kind of came up with on the spot, massive hit. It's wild how many times it works out that way and nobody learns anything from it.
I think it's just, and you know what's interesting is like a lot of people that were on major labels have like horror stories about the way that they were treated or how it all went, and I really don't have that. Jason Flom, who signed us to Universal, really believed in us and thought we were awesome and really understood, to a degree anyway, what, you know, he came from the 80s and he'd signed Twisted Sister, and, you know, obviously not just the 80s, he's one of the most well-respected A&R people of all time, whether it's Katy Perry or Lorde or any major thing that's happened in the last 20 years. Jason is involved ostensibly in some way, and then recently Greta Van Fleet. But he was kind of hamstrung with us because nobody fucking knew what to do with us. We're on a label with The Weeknd, Taylor Swift, Drake, you know, like, and nobody understood our scene. Nobody, you know, like, they weren't, the people that worked at Republic weren't coming to Warped Tour. They just knew that we had a big fan base and sold enough records for it to make sense. And that really helped us for the first couple of years, because basically what happened was, first record, all hands on deck, we're going to break this band. We write a record that sounds like us and not anything that really could be broken, and then they don't know what to do, so they're doing shit like recutting Rebel Love Song with no guitars in it and replacing it with synth, and then trying to service that to alternative radio, and there was just nothing. And active rock radio at the time didn't really like us because the visual didn't really fit what was popular at active rock radio at the time. You know what I mean? Like, there was a very specific type of thing that was going on in like 2010 at, you know, what people sometimes call like butt rock, right? Like, that was the thing that
3 Days Grace
was really big then. So we didn't really have a place, so they didn't know what to do. So on the second record that we did with Universal, which is Wretched and Divine, which is the singular gold record that we have and the thing that kind of launched our career mostly,
with good reason,
they didn't care about us at all, but not in a bad way. They just left us completely alone, and we had a product manager who said, yeah, whatever it costs, just do whatever. And it was kind of like, just leave us alone and just make a record.
This best case scenario. I
was given at 21 okay, I can go work with John Feldman. I've written this story on the notes app on my first iPhone on a plane ride from Europe. I go to Feldman, I meet him for the first time. We hit it off, and I go, I want to make this sweeping concept record about this crazy idea, and here's all these stories, and I've worked with my friend who's a graphic designer, and we've come up with all these characters and all this stuff. And Feldman's like, okay, well, so is the label behind? I go, I don't think they have any idea, but they're like, we're just going to do this. And they let us do it. So without that, you know, we don't career. And
okay, wait, you know, hold on. We got to stop because we have deviated so far from you having one rib. It's crazy right now.
I know. So there's the problem with you guys agreeing to interview me and have me on the show. There's no way for me to stop talking. Like, I don't know how to stop talking. It's one of the, it's a real fatal flaw with me.
No, when we're done, I'll still be sitting here for an interview.
I'll still be sitting here talking to just the iPad after this call's done, just about all the times me and John Feldman, whatever. So, all right, I'll quickly get back to then we'll go back to the other digression. There's probably about like 10 or 11 digressions that happen in there, but
we're still on the first question, Andy.
All right, I broke my ribs. I go, okay, I'm gonna make a big splash. Universal, all this shit, big deal. First record, got to do it. I go, okay, I want to. Have you guys ever been to Hollywood and Highland Mall in Hollywood?
No, it sounds fun.
Okay, no. So here's the reason why I ask. It's one of the like tourist destinations in LA, right? Like it's where they do the Grammys, and it's all this. It's a big thing. So what they have is they have these big statues, inexplicably, of elephants made out of marble at the top of like where people congregate. And I saw those statues, and I was like, there will be nothing more badass than me climbing what is essentially 1,000 feet in the air, and then jumping off and then landing back on the stage. Now,
well, that does sound cool, to be fair.
It does. And you will not be surprised to learn that I was not able to make it up there. So I get about 30 feet up, and then I realized there's no further way to go. I also realized that I am wearing boots with no tread on them, and I'm on marble pillars.
Fatal mistake.
So I'm sort of sliding at this point, and then I think, all right, we've got to sit down now. I'm still singing, by the way. It's the first song of the show. I'm singing, and I go, we got to sit down, figure this out. And then I come up with what is potentially my least brilliant idea, which was I thought that I could sort of fulcrum myself and take my arms and launch myself like this. And I would go, in my head, this is how this is playing out. We'll use Batman as an
Bro, I'm
example.
fucking surprised you're alive at this point.
Here we go. All right, so I have a coffee cup here. Here is me. I sit down like this, right?
Yeah.
I take my arms and push myself, and in my mind, this is how it's going to go. And I'm going to clear it and land like I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to land amazingly on the stage like this. What happens is I push myself, and then I just immediately topple over and land like this, and crush the whole side of my body on another marble pillar, and then another one, and then to the ground. And I just completely destroyed my 9, 10, and 11 ribs. And all I have left on the side is just a little nub of my 11th rib. And the rest I had to, and this is a fun story for you guys. I had to pass the bone particles. What's that?
You finished the set, right?
I finished the show, yes.
Fucking superhero.
I got up. I had no idea where I was. I don't remember I've seen video of the show. I had no recollection of being there. It was just like, I guess, some sort of lizard brain kicked in. I started calling songs that we had never played live before. So now bear in mind, my band has no idea that I have been anywhere but on stage. They think, oh, we went out in the crowd or something, because there's these pillars that are separating the stage from, so they never saw any of this. So Andy goes away. I come back 3 minutes later, and I'm saying like, let's play this song. And it's songs that we've never rehearsed. So finish the show. And at the time, Matt Good from First to Last and I were our roommates, and he's at the show, and he had brought a couple friends, and Jeffree Star is back there as well. I don't know Jeffree at all at the time, and the show's done, and I say to everybody like, hey, I think I really need to go to the hospital. I think I've broken all my ribs, and then I black out. So I get to the hospital. I get to the hospital, and my manager had dropped me off, and they needed him to go around and park. So I'm in the emergency room, and the only person, I guess Matt had traveled separately, and like my tour manager had traveled separately. Somehow the only person that got there to go through triage with me was Jeffree Star.
Shut the fuck up.
Whom I don't really know, but is, I mean, to Jeffree's credit, very effective at getting people to treat me. It was like yelling at the staff, like, you gotta pay attention to him and all this. So
an incredible kindness for two individuals who sort of just like cross paths.
I am covered in black body paint and head to toe. My hair is like this big at the time. I've got the full bats on the eyes, the whole thing. Oh, by the way, the black body paint, really not good for when they're trying to do intravenous shit and trying to find a vein. They must have stabbed my arm like 15 times trying to find a vein when I'm just covered.
Thank God
and
they go, here, bro.
They go, why do you have black paint all over yourself? And I was so out of it that the only thing I could think to say was, I'm a theatrical performer. I don't know why I chose that.
Not terribly far off.
Yeah. So anyway, that's why I don't have any ribs.
Do you have a fear of elephants now?
No, if I'd gotten closer, but they were too far away. It's not the elephant's fault.
It'd be funny if he did. All right, listen, we have some fan questions. I'm just going to rattle through them really quick. I'd be remiss if we didn't get to them. At Lazarus and Love asked, what's your go-to Halloween show or movie? Like Halloween specific time frame show or movie.
I'm trying to think if I have one. I seem to always play a show on Halloween.
Right, you can't be on
like every fucking year, so it's very hard to think of. I mean, my favorite horror franchise is Nightmare on Elm Street, and I like Dream Warriors the most. So I go with that one.
Okay. All right. At Coletown_ asked, favorite pasta noodle.
What's the one that looks like a wheel? Like
That's
a
a good
bike wheel?
fucking question.
Are they called bike wheels?
Hey, we're doing the interview here, buddy.
What do you think it's called? What do you think it's called?
Bike wheel.
We're gonna call it that. Yeah. So bike
Yeah.
wheel noodle is the answer here.
Yeah.
At Aaron Mrs. Music Love asked favorite Batman villain.
I mean, I hate to be that guy, but it's got to be Joker, right? Like that's just.
It kind of
Can't fault you.
does have to be Joker. Are you excited for what like was the spoiler warning for the Batman Joker tease for the next movie?
Not particularly.
Joker's your favorite villain, but now you don't give a shit.
Yeah, no, it's not that I don't give a shit. It's just I want them to do other shit. Like there's just so many. I love the Joker, but I just like we really. Oh, but now he's mostly bald, or like there's just all this like shit that like it's the same thing, but now he's even more horribly disfigured. I don't know. I'm a little lukewarm on the Batman in general. Like I've gone through waves.
No.
I know. I saw it back-to-back nights, opening night, and then again the next day, and then I went again with my dad because that's always our tradition. Is since I was a little kid, we'd go see Batman movies, and every time I would go like, "I'm gonna fucking love it this time," and then I just never. And I have only rewatched it once. I of course own the Steelbook and all the other shit, but I have only watched it once.
What put you off about it? Like, was there one thing in particular that just didn't really click for you? You hate
that's the thing is I can't really put my finger on it. Like I can't really figure out what it is that doesn't totally work for me. But I do like all the elements, and I kind of feel that way. I felt that way about Batman Begins, and then I loved The Dark Knight. So I'm hoping because I really like what they've got in terms of I like Robert Pattinson. I love the aesthetic. I love the tone. But I do kind of like have some tonal issues in the sense that, I mean, do we really need like fucking so gritty, man? Like he's like it's Batman, like no joy, right? Like this is a mean character who's sad and angry, and it's just like I don't know. As a kid, my deep love of the Burton movies is really what stemmed my interest in Batman, and that character. He's really essentially it's like any other Tim Burton character when you really break it down. The way that he portrayed Bruce Wayne and Batman, where Bruce Wayne's like a weirdo who doesn't fit in society, so he dresses up like a bat to protect himself. That's basically what like the 12-year-old Andy is doing. Is doesn't fit into society, so I dress up like a bat to go to school and protect myself. So I always so greatly associated with that. And the problem that I have with modern iterations of the character is they often miss that, and they just like it's just he's fucking tough guy, man. Like he's so tough. He's so tough, and like I could give a fuck about how tough somebody is. Like that's not interesting to me. I'm not like I don't watch UFC. I could give a shit. You know what I mean? Like I don't. It's not like that kind of stuff doesn't really make any like I guess excite me at all. So I get that for some people like they just want to watch people get punched in the face. But like when I was a little kid, my Batman toys had conversations. I didn't. You know what I mean? About the crime that was going to happen.
Audio listeners, he just pulled the Batman out figure and spoke with him for just a second there.
Yeah.
So I feel like that is a understandable criticism. You do not relate to the character the same way you did before. That's fair. That's fair.
And yet, bought all the toys. Have a big movie poster in my studio.
At this point, like you're too deep.
Yeah. Old habits die hard.
So there's to the right of my little desk in my studio at home, I always change out the poster to whatever the current like Batman movie or whatever it is. So I did my tradition. I switched it out. I got a nice big
Patrick, drummer of Ice Nine Kills, has asked you to please rank the members of Inc.
You know what? Because Pat asked it, I'm just gonna say Pat across the board.
I thought you were going to go with Pat at the bottom.
Such a cop out.
No, he asked it. I have to see him tomorrow. I'm not going to be like, hey, I ranked you last.
Hey, this won't release for a couple
days. Everybody would expect me to go. Everybody's then I feel bad, Joe and Ricky.
Let's go.
I'm not going to rank them. I like them all. I love Spencer. I like them all. I do. And you know what? And just to touch on Trinity, because I do want to say it.
We had like 40 questions about Trinity. We'll never get to it, but go ahead.
Well, it's been such a pleasure to get to do a tour where like everybody, we really do. I mean, and I'm not saying this to be political at all. We do genuinely all get along and have had a really good time. And like, it's been so many, like this could have gone really bad politically in terms of like infighting or, like there's a lot of egos and there just hasn't been that at all. And it's been a real pleasure. Like we've got a long road here until December, but I'm already sad that it's wrapping up.
Would you like to maybe continue that friendship by having a song with the three of you on vocals? Has that been considered?
Yeah, it's just timing. You know what I mean? It's really hard because we're all in cycle essentially, and we all live in different parts of the country. Whose song would it be? Do we write an original song? Do we cover a song talked about like that? I would say that it's not completely out of the realm of possibility that it would happen sometime. It was always planned in the beginning. Like we had
No.
planned this. We're like, we're gonna do a 3-song EP where every band gets one song and all this stuff. And then
Ooh.
it's like timing is just hard, man. It's just
No,
it's a
fuck
bitch to try to
timing,
get everything
Andy. No,
together.
fuck timing. Do it. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, well, who knows? And look, I would not say that this is the end of this forever. I just think, at this point, it doesn't make sense to just keep doing the exact same tour for several years in a row. But I would say that everybody would probably want to do this again when it comes. You'd have to obviously speak to everybody else, but the vibe is everybody's really still happy with that we're doing it.
Fair.
Yeah, we had a question. Obviously, it's taken on a lot of different shapes over the past year. You guys have banged out festivals together. You've had different supporting acts. Recently, you hit up Mexico with Bring Me the Horizon, supporting that band. Was there
Yesterday.
yesterday, geez. Was there a feeling, just maybe consciously or unconsciously, that it would take on the life that it did? Like it ended up being the year of terror.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were all pretty certain about it. The hardest thing was selling promoters on it initially. Um, you'd think that it would, because now it's succeeded so much that it sounds kind of like a slam dunk, but
Mhm.
a lot of promoters were hesitant to take on a show that in their mind was three bands with 1 point of purchase in terms of a ticket. They saw
I
all
can see
three
that.
audiences as the same audience. And so they didn't think, oh, this could be in a bigger room, or they didn't think that they saw it as having to overpay essentially for, and not to get into the kind of weeds or to get
No,
too,
that's
I guess,
interesting.
but all three bands, we make the same amount of money for every show. Everything is split, down the middle for all the bands, it's split 3 ways. So it's a little bit more expensive of a show for a promoter to take on. And so we were saying, you will be rewarded because it's not one fan for all three bands, it's different fan bases. And then when you combine all three bands, we believe that it would be the type of tour that somebody who is maybe a casual fan of any one of the three would go, this is worth coming out because this is something that is different and unique. And we knew that we could bring, with the three bands combined, better stage show, longer. Each band could play a headline set. We could add openers that were rotational for every leg. Like we had all these plans, and it just took that first leg as kind of proof of concept for it to take off. And then now you're seeing, leg 3 is significantly bigger than even leg 2 was. So it was nice to be able to, I guess, for all of us, for the three bands and our representation, to all be able to kind of have the victory lap of this third leg where people are taking it seriously. The fans have spoken, they've said that they enjoy it, and we're seeing great numbers across the board. So yeah, I mean, like anything, look, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. I'm not unfamiliar with people not believing in what we do. It's just the
That's such a
position of being the
fascinating, it's just that particular sticking point that they would look at three incredibly successful bands and go, it's hard to sell them all together, is such a fascinating idea, because like from an outsider's perspective, it's like, oh, that's the easiest ticket ever. Like,
Right.
that's
But
like
you're coming
such a
out, you got to
slam dunk.
remember, you're coming out of COVID. People are reeling. Venues are just opening back up. We started in March of 2021. It's still kind of early days in terms of like cancellations. I missed 4 shows with COVID on the first leg. Like this shit was still really difficult to do. And so one thing that we really appreciated was so many markets really did take it on, but I don't think we begrudged any of the markets who wanted to wait and see, because it was such a new world. And I don't think anybody didn't believe that the tour would sell. I think it was hard for people to justify the higher cost to bring in the show when they didn't realize that each band had its own audience and a shared audience and maybe a casual audience. And then the great luck of the fact that Ice Nine is blowing up, and more and more around the world. Motionless, #1 song at radio right now. We've in many ways been able to had several years where we were inactive. I was doing solo stuff, whatever else. And we've been able to kind of really gain a lot of ground. We had top 10 song. We've had multiple songs on radio that we've never had before. You know, statistically, we've done really well. So, you know, especially with the other two bands on the package, it's just been a lot of benefits that have kind of happened around the tour that make it work. You know, and the other thing is you got to understand, I'm not making it up when I say, like, there are plenty of Ice Nine and Motionless fans that are not happy about Black Veil Brides. It's just the way it is. You know, we are a very
I understand. Yes.
yes, we are a very specific band. What we do is very specific. So it has been fun to, in some ways, play in front of people who are certain that they're going to hate it, and then don't.
Standoffish, yeah.
Yeah, and then don't, or if they don't hate it, they at least have an understanding of it. You know, and it's also like you have three bands with really dedicated fans, and sometimes dedicated fan bases don't want to mess with anybody but their own band that they're there to see. So that's been really interesting too, to get to see kind of this melding pot of, like, you know, the really specific Ice Nine fans, the really specific Motionless fans, and the BVB fans. And as this tour has progressed, seeing it go from three bands with three fan bases and then some crossover to leg three, people are hyped about all three bands. We're not really
Trinity
seeing the
fans
kind
at
of
this
like,
point.
yeah, I think at this point, like, the tour has become a lot more of its own entity, and so that's exciting as well.
Out of curiosity, what was the genesis of this idea? Like, was there one individual who really championed it so that you could push it through promoters who might have pushed back a little bit?
Well, all three bands really, we all believed in the concept from the beginning, and from a managerial standpoint, from a representative standpoint, everybody's teams all agreed with this. It's sort of funny, you know, Chris and I from Motionless had like this weird Cold War for years that was based on nothing. It was, a lot of people had said to each one of us that we didn't like each other. That was it. You know what I mean? It was one of those things where it was like, that person told you that this guy said this, or he doesn't like you, or he doesn't answer when you email, or you don't talk, like a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
Yes, we never once had beef, really, but it was this sort of bizarre, and then the fans caught wind of that, and then there was like this years-long, like, Black Veil fans versus Motionless fans,
God.
and there was never any actual beef. So I remember Chris suggested that he and I should just go to dinner and, you know, really lay out A, why any of that existed, and B, like, you know, kind of, I guess, move past whatever did or didn't exist. And
was there a little bit of
ultimately,
tension there then? Like to have to go down and like sit with someone who, like, theoretically you're thinking in your head, well, does this guy maybe actually kind of hate me? And I'm just like,
well, that
not
was
sure.
the tension, was we both thought that the other person hated each other inexplicably. Like, we both were convinced that we were going to go there and be like, look, you know, I know that you don't like me that much, but, you know, here's, and ultimately we sat down and never once, we had dinner for probably like 2 hours in
This is
LA
our
at
worry.
a vegan place, and never once even discussed that we were supposed to be talking about burying the hatchet on something, because there was no hatchet to bury. We have always gotten along. We come, you know, we were talking about it recently. We come from a very similar world. You know, he's from Scranton, Cincinnati's not too far away. We started our bands at essentially the same year, at the same time. I remember Motionless flyers in clubs when I was playing with Black Veil, the earliest versions of Black Veil in 2005, 2006 in clubs in Cincinnati. And he's stuck with it. He's been through a lot of different member changes. And, you know, one of the coolest things I would say, that I've gotten to experience as a fan of music in recent memory is getting to watch them in Scranton headline at the Trinity date in Scranton at the amphitheater there, where he went to go as a kid to see Warped Tour and all these other bands.
Yeah,
that was a really
fucking
emotional thing.
rad.
It was extremely cool. So yeah, there's no beef, and there hasn't been, but it's just sort of funny how. And then Ice Nine, it was just a logical thing. So once Motionless and Black Veil kind of were in, we went to Ice Nine and said, what do you think of this? Like, what if we make, you know, I think at the time Hella Mega Tour was going on, and we were like, fucking the scenes, you know, goth
Dark
Hella
version.
Mega Tour,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
do it, you know.
I'd like to imagine Ice Nine Kills were like, I thought you'd never ask. Yeah.
Fair enough.
I know you mentioned it was a vegan place. Was it neutral ground, or was it like Cincinnati, Scranton?
No, it was L.A.
Okay.
Crossroads, so bougie.
Interesting.
Quick question from Motionless Omens: is the koala bear dressed as you drinking Seagram's 7 whiskey still your favorite tattoo? There he is.
Got this in Cleveland, minutes before we went on stage. The 2011 AP tour with who was on that tour?
Oh shit,
Was that Drugs?
Yeah, was that Drugs?
Drugs, yeah.
Run it back next year.
Bands, one of my favorite bands that we ever toured with, and now I can't remember their name. What the hell?
Shit, who was on that tour? No, I know this. I know. Was it
AP?
Was it?
I got to look at my Spotify because I listen to this record all the fucking time.
Fuck.
They don't exist anymore, I don't think. Let's see.
We literally, it begins with a C, and I can't place it, but I promise.
Conditions.
Yes.
Conditions.
I wanted to say
Fuck,
Convictions,
dude.
and I'm like, no, they're still around. This
No,
doesn't
that
check out.
record fucking rules. Their first
I
record is
loved
so
it.
good.
It was such a bummer that they're not around anymore.
Well, they're one of those bands that was like beloved by other bands and just were never caught like a big audience, and it's totally not fair because they rule. And then Verso Merge was on that tour, and so I remember it.
Yes.
I got that tattoo. It was the last night of tour. I went out on stage and they were doing like end of tour pranks on everybody. And our tour manager was like, that I wouldn't be happy about an end of tour prank. So nobody did end of tour pranks on us.
So you did the koala bear to yourself to even it out?
Yeah, I did the koala bear because I was drunk. And I thought.
So wait, you never answered the question. Still your favorite tattoo?
No, I would say.
What supersedes it then?
What's my? I would say maybe fuck fun. That's another one.
Is that just like an internal like? Is that just like your motto or something?
Okay, I actually have a funny story. I don't think that the person that they know this. I actually don't think that they know this. Who this tattoo is about? It's not really about them.
Shut up. This is about a bitter tattoo. What's the story in this?
It's not bitter. It's funny. So. Royal Family Clothing Tour of 2010.
I have never heard of this. Who the fuck was on this?
Sleeping with Sirens.
Okay.
Jesus.
Okay.
Black Veil Brides. So this is the order of how people played. Sleeping plays first, Black Veil plays second. We were playing like 10 minutes each. Then it's Confide, I Set to Kill.
Yo, this is fire. Yo, this shit is fire.
And we were at some club. And there was this one dude, I want to say, okay, he wasn't in Sleeping with Sirens. Maybe he was just like a friend of theirs. And he was just like a really nice and positive guy. And he was always saying like, we're going to have fun today, boys. And Matt Good and I were fucking like hungover and exhausted. And we were like, man, fuck fun. And then we were drunk, so we thought that was hilarious. So we went and got fuck fun tattooed on our wrist somewhere in like Virginia. And the thing about it is, like, the person who did it clearly didn't know what the fuck they were doing. It's so fucking deep in my arm, like it's like a keloid scar. It literally, it's like it raises in hot temperatures. Like it's really fucked up. Anyway, that's a good one.
Yeah,
the reason for the koala was that I always wanted to have a koala for our bus.
What's your other bicep tattoo?
Over here?
Yeah.
Alkaline Trio.
Okay. Fair.
I have a lot of Alkaline Trio tattoos.
Okay.
I mostly I would say that.
How do you feel about what they did to your boy Skiba?
What?
How do you feel about what they did to your boy Skiba a couple weeks ago?
Well, I love Matt, and he's a lovely person, and he's one of those examples of how meeting your heroes is cool. Got to work with him. I really love him, but I did not love. I'm not a Blink fan. I'm nothing against them. I've just never been a Blink fan. Yeah, so it wasn't a marriage for me that I loved. I love Feldy. I loved when they were making those records. Feldy would play me the stuff. Those songs are great. It just wasn't. There's a certain darkness that I require for my music. You know, the Alkaline Trio of it all. And
so, does that carry forward? Like, okay, so like you've pitched to us, or well, you haven't pitched to us. You told us literally who you were as a child, like AFI, Alkaline Trio, Sad Shit. Is that still you? Is that still the shit you're listening to today? Like, not necessarily those bands, but that vibe.
All right, so I'll just tell you what. Here's what I listened to on my flight I'll just pull up the Spotify.
Expose yourself, Andy.
Jimmy Eat World, Chase This Light.
Okay.
That new The Used song.
Okay. Fuck fun.
Matt Skiba and the Secrets, Babylon.
You're literally listening to the same bands. Literally, not a single band that's come out in the last 20 years.
What else we got? Damnesia, Alkaline Trio. The Wonder Years, Wyatt Song.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Let's see what else we got. Dan Andriano's solo record. So again, Alkaline Trio.
You haven't changed.
Then the general This Is Alkaline Trio Spotify playlist. Yeah, that's all the stuff and then the new Goo Goo Dolls record. That's what I listened to this week.
Are you strictly music? Do you listen to any podcast, like besides us, obviously, but do you listen to any other podcasts?
Yeah, I listen to and have listened to for every week for the last 10 years. My friends do a Kiss podcast, and I listen to that every week. Yeah.
There's 10 years of material on Kiss?
They say it all the time. They can't believe they're still doing it. They're my good friends, and so I listen to that every week. I listen to a couple different music business podcasts every week. Oh, you know what I forgot to mention is the Creeper Christmas EP and their first and the Sex, Death, and
Creeper is
Infinite
so
Void.
Good.
Taste.
Yeah. One of my favorite bands.
Have you ever toured with them?
So
like out of sheer curiosity, have you ever in the UK? Obviously, did Creeper?
Yeah, I brought them out early when they had just put the EP out with an Andy Black tour, and that was really cool. I'm such a fan. I knew it's so funny because they had just released their EP, but I found them early, and I was backstage singing along to all the songs, and somebody was like, "Are these covers? Like, how would you possibly know? Like, they just released this." And I was like, "Oh yeah, no, this is." I always tell Will that they are the band that was like, if you had like a creative player of like what I would most like, it's like everything. Like I sometimes listen to the records and I'm like, this had to have been made specifically for me. Like, there's so many things that are just out. If I didn't make this record, how is it possible that somebody else made this ridiculous Meatloaf dramatic version of like Lords of the New Church, Typo Negative, and Kiss, and Misfits, and AFI, and like all this stuff? I'm like, how is it possible that this exists outside of my own brain and heart? Like, this is, anyway, I love
They're
that.
So fucking underrated. It's so nice to hear you like say such positive things about them.
And the best people. I love them, all of them.
Good to hear.
Yeah, that is good to hear.
My significant other, who I would be remiss not to mention, is a longtime fan of yours and BVB, dating all the way back to 2009 when you had all your ribs.
Back in the old rib days.
Back in the rib days.
The OG rib days.
Is there any key difference between the message you wanted to send to your fans then versus the message you want to send to them now?
You know what I would say the biggest difference is? I was really into punk rock, and as a kid I would go to shows, and I would go the example I give was always I went to see Social Distortion and Street Dogs was opening. I was a huge Dropkick Murphys fan, huge Street Dogs fan, and so I went to go meet them, and I've talked to Mike since then, and he's apologized, but he was pretty rude to me on the basis of the fact that I looked like a little goth kid. I didn't look like Dropkick Murphys, like oi punk fan, and I didn't fit in there. And then I would go to see bands where everybody kind of looked like me, and I didn't like the music. Like I didn't like that era of music. I didn't fit in there. So I always felt like I didn't have any place to go. The bands that I liked didn't want me around because I wasn't cool for what they liked or what they perceived their audience to be. And the bands that maybe would have been more welcoming, I couldn't get into the music. So I just felt like this person without a thing. And I always felt like I wasn't, and this is actually really important to the message. I've never been cool. I've never understood what cool is. I've never understood what is hip or in of the moment or any of that kind of stuff. And I never really, it's not that I didn't care about it. I was so disconnected from it. And I knew that cool bands or bands that had credibility or audiences that were respected, even the ones that I loved, like a band that's an example is Foxy Shazam. I grew up in the same area as them. They were a few years older than me. I love that band so much, but they were loved pretty quickly critically by other people. Like they were immediately like, oh, that's interesting and cool. But a lot of the bands and the shows I would go to, I didn't feel a lot of acceptance, and I didn't feel like I had a place. And I thought, if I could just make a band that the ideology and the idea was that we are entirely on the outside. That even the people who are, let's say, like, you know, a Bring Me the Horizon fan who is maybe left of center, but they're going to look down on this band. You know, they're going to look down on Black Veil fans because
it's incredible that this is your intention starting a band and you've ended up this successful, because I feel like you almost came in with like the ideology of setting yourself up for failure.
But it was the reality of my life. And I just thought, I really want to do something that feels like I have a home. I always wanted to be in a band. I always wanted to, I'm an only child. I always felt lonely. I just wanted to be around something that felt like it was important, that had significant value. And I was a kid who had a lot of anxieties and fears, and I struggled with a lot of stuff. And I just wanted to have a place. And I loved punk rock, and I would watch DVDs of these bands that I loved, or VHS tapes of these bands that I loved, and I would watch these shows. You know, Another State of Mind with Social Distortion, and they would go on tour in a school bus, and they would play in basements, and, you know, Fugazi and all this stuff. And I was just like, I want to be a part of something like that, but that wasn't really an option. And so I just wanted to create something that felt like that for people that were like me. That was the initial idea. And then unintended consequence of that is that people that were struggling with mental health issues or whatever it was would come to the shows, and they would say that the songs that I wrote saved them. And then they would tell me, this is what saved my life. And then I would think, I'm 2 years older than you. I have no idea how to save a life. I'm fucked up. I'm scared of everything all the time. Like, I don't have any social skills. I dropped out of high school. I have no education. You know, I just wanted to do this, and I don't know how to help people in that way. So what shifted was, I really started to try to take on that feeling of like, okay. And I remember talking, and we talked about Kellen before, but I remember in 2013, Kellen and I sitting in the back of one of our trailers on Warped Tour and sort of talking about, like, we have this wonderful responsibility that we've been given, and these people that care so deeply about the music that we make, and we both have no idea what to really say. Somebody comes up to you with a razor blade and is like, hey, I cut myself and I don't do it anymore. Here's this razor blade for you. What do you say? You know, and so it was a process of trying to figure out how I can best represent the thing that I want to represent, and how I can be of use and help to the audience that has given me this chance. And so the way that the message has changed is I've really tried to be clear over the years, because I think in the original days, I set myself up as if I was, unintentionally, I was setting myself up as if I knew everything and I would be the Pied Piper and lead us through. And as I've gotten older, the most important thing, and I would say I probably discovered this, you know, probably around like 2013, 2014, was, no, I have to position the audience to understand that I'm unremarkable, that everything I do is composite of everything that they can do, that I'm just a person who got a little bit more lucky than the person next to me, and I work my ass off, but I was put in this position, and with hard work and dedication, you can do the things you want to do. Now, within reason. I've never believed in the whole, like, you can be anything you want to be, because there are limitations to what you can be. There are limitations to the skills that you have. But if you can assess yourself and say, I can do that, then fucking do it. Because I watched, you know, whoever it was on Warped Tour stages, the guys in the Phenomenauts or whatever playing on egg crates, and I'd be like, well, I can fucking do that. So, and I knew I could. And so I did. And so that became the difference. Was, I'm not a hero. I'm not remarkable. I'm not a rock star. I'm a kid from Ohio who really wanted to do something, and I fucking work my ass off every single day. There's not a minute that goes by that I am not thinking about what I can do, the next opportunity I can make, the next fucking comic book I can come up with, the next costume I can design, whatever it is. I spend every day of my life thinking about, A, how this opportunity is so great, and B, how I can advance it and how I can do more with the gift I've been given. And I think that is the message more than anything, is if you get a chance in your life to do something great, be thankful for that.
Love that answer.
Yeah, that's an absolutely incredible answer. Yeah. Andy, it's been great having you. again, the Mourning EP out now on Sumerian Records.
We missed so many things, guys. There's so
I
many
know,
eras we
I
didn't
was
talk
thinking to
about.
myself, like, all right, listen, Andy, would you maybe be willing to come back and talk to us again?
Absolutely. I want to talk about, because you guys rag on Feldy. I can't have that. I gotta talk about.
Oh shit, we're out of time, Andrew. God, it's been so fun having you.
And it's not, look, I'm not going back. Well, just quickly, I understand that not everything is for everybody, so I'm not really giving you shit about that. But there's so much that's wrapped up in that era in my career that I'd love to be able to talk about the making of that stuff and the years that I worked with Feldy and everything. And I think that would be fun. So there's a lot of stuff I'd love to talk about if you guys would ever have me back.
It's good. No,
Would love
absolutely.
to.
Shit, I wanted to talk to you about Eric Ron. We barely get into that.
I want to say real quick, Eric is the shit. Eric is, and you guys are right to stay on Eric Ron because he's extraordinarily talented, extremely kind, one of the most wonderful people that I've ever had the pleasure of getting to know and work with. And we text all the time about football and life and bullshit and whatever else. And I didn't know him at all before February of 2020, and met and just instantly connected. And him and Anthony, his engineer, they're the shit, man. Like I love working with them, and you're right to think that he is the guy, because he is.
Well, clearly that relationship has translated extremely well into the music too, because it was in the press release for the EP. I feel like it was specifically stated, hey, we had such a great time with Eric Ron, so we ran it back.
And Eric lets me do shit the way that I want to with my own voice. And here's the thing. A lot of producers who have the skill and the talent that he has, as far as lyrics go, I don't like to write lyrics in a collaborative way. I go away, write everything outside. I used to smoke cigarettes outside. Now I just sit out there. But I like to sit alone to write them. I come back in, and Eric was the first producer we've ever worked with, and many cool producers we've worked with, who said, I want you to be able to have your voice on this record, and we're not going to try to adjust things that you're saying to fit the phraseology better, whatever else. He really let me do what I wanted to do in that regard. And then also, he's the best singer. He's the best dude. There would be a part that I could sing stuff that I couldn't sing before, because he would sing it to me and show me something in a way that was so palatable and easy for me to understand, that it has improved my voice. In the same way that John Feldman took me from having no idea how to sing at all to being able to sing to the level that kind of got me to where we've been at, Eric took it an even further level to where I understand things vocally that I didn't before.
That's crazy. I feel like I never really got like, don't get me wrong. Like, I definitely look at a producer and go like, okay, I can see in my mind based on their other work, what they brought to this, but like to the level of like helping me train to sing and then expanding upon that with somebody else completely different. I didn't realize that like band producer relationship went that deep. I thought it was more of like a very finite transactional time where they just kind of assisted in the process, but never got that deep. Do you think you've just maybe been a little lucky with your producers as well?
We've done 2 records with transactional nice guys, but producers that were producers, and then it was done. And then we did 2 records. Feldy and Eric Ron were both people that became, for me, like institutions in my life, and elements on a personal level, and connected just differently, and I don't really know the reason for that, other than, it's no coincidence that both of those guys have worked on some of my favorite records, and in one case together worked on one of my favorite records. So
wait, what record did they both work on together?
The Foxy Shazam self-titled record is my number.
Right, so now I gotta listen.
Number 3, I would say, maybe number 2. I would say it's my number 2 favorite record of all time.
Wait, what beats it?
Bruce Springsteen, Magic.
What a fucking wild ass random answer. After you sit here for 20 minutes and you tell us like you're an Alkaline Trio fan, and
oh, by the way, Trio,
and also
makes
all
up
the side projects
records
from Alkaline Trio. Your favorite album's Bruce
Trio
Springsteen?
makes up record 3 through 8, but it gets beat by those 2 records.
Okay.
Well, so what's 9 and 10 then?
But also what's 10 through 100?
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
Again, we'd have to go back to my Spotify. We'd have to fit a lot of things that I just said, because I also listen to like the same shit over and over again.
Okay, all right. Final question, Andy. Yes, absolutely, we'll have you back. What's the state of the scene?
I got to see if my 7% is what my iPad is at right
7% is the state of the scene. Brutal.
What is the state of the scene? It's fucking thriving, dude. Like, here's the thing. I was just
Love
having
to
this
hear it.
conversation with somebody today. I am seeing so many cool things happening for this scene, and beyond just the celebration and the nostalgia. There's so many great new bands. There's so many bands that are putting out great. Speaking of all the bands this weekend, so many of them have put out like really good new material. Go listen to Something Loud by Jimmy Eat World, the new song. It sounds like vintage Jimmy Eat World. Like, bands are discovering themselves in a lot of ways because of this resurgence of our era in music. I think it's looking good, man. Like, I'm really hyped for what's to come, and I think that to get to be a part of Trinity showed that in a lot of ways. To see like, fuck, like people are really into this era, so to speak, and moving forward, it's, you know, it's succeeding at a level that I think is beyond what a lot of people would have thought. Certainly, I am succeeding beyond a level that State of the Scene predicted in April of 2019.
What a fucking way to end the show. Absolutely beautiful.
Fuck fun, man. Fuck fun.
All right, boys. Thank you very much. I appreciate
Thanks,
you
Andy.
both.
We
I'd love to
appreciate
come
having
back.
you on. Take it easy.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
See ya.